皆さん、ハロー、ニックです。Welcome to Nick and Alex。今日はアメリカ、日本、ロシアの結婚式について話します。結婚の話もちょいするかもしれないんですけど、メインは結婚式。So, which country do you want to start with?
So, shall we start with Nick の結婚式?
Okay. Mine, because I'm married.
Because you have an experience.
アメリカは大体ね、多分、昔っていうか、20年
ちょっとね、yours was completely American, or
mine was 今風のアメリカ。だから、まず、昔はね、there was like religious weddings, like Catholic wedding, or Jewish wedding, or probably an Islamic type of wedding. だけど最近、アメリカ人が気づいたんですよ。結婚式つまんないの、大体。They're so bored. もうずっと座っても知らないジジイのスピーチを聞くとかね。So, recently, many Americans, including myself, were like, let's just have a party. もうパーティーやりましょう。で、スピーチはめっちゃ短い。俺、嫁、俺のママ。あと、嫁のママ。So it was really short. There was probably 10 minutes of speech and 3 hours of getting drunk, dancing, and eating really good food.
Sounds good.
Yeah. And ちなみに俺の結婚式はサンフランシスコのゴールデンゲートブリッジの下ぐらい。So it was right near the Golden Gate Bridge. Do you know that?
No.
It's a really famous bridge. So, 結構60代、50代、70代のおっさん、おばあちゃんたちがみんなすごい酔っ払って美味しい食べ物を食べてダンスが多くて、で、そういう宗教的なとこをなくして、ちょっと、なんていうの？フォーマル的なとこもなくしました。And I think many marriages in the States are like that. What about Russia?
Russia has a very interesting culture of wedding ceremonies and obviously includes a lot of drinking.
Yeah, everything probably includes a lot of drinking in Russia.
Fair enough, yes. But specifically for the weddings, like, I don't think even 1% of marriages in modern Russia is like non-alcoholic. So they're all with a lot of drinking. But also because a lot of people get kind of violent when they drink, it's like a stereotype that someone's gonna be in a fight.
Yeah.
Your drunk uncle and your husband's like...
政治的な話で喧嘩して、
Well, not even necessarily seiji-tekiness. Like, it's just whatever.
Really?
Like, everyone's just so drunk because it's a really big event, supposedly.
Yeah.
So, it's just, like, so much drinking.
Yeah. Is it religious? That's the main question.
I think, well, there are people that are still having, mostly Christian weddings, but of course, like, Islamic or whatever.
Yeah.
But people who want to do that, they go to the church kind of slightly separately, and then they have the, the just formal ceremony. There are people who choose not to go to the church and just have the ceremony.
なるほどね。So like 二次会みたいな。I have a question. Do you have to pay? Because in Japan you have to pay. アメリカは絶対お金を払わなくていいの。Like you might give them like a microwave or like some type of present that they will find useful.
Yes. Yeah, well you're supposed to bring a present.
Yeah. なんか日本俺結構誘われてんの俺は。で結構行ってんの結婚式。でも毎回払うのはさ、もう多分これは20代30代のあるあるなんだけど、あんま行きたくないの。毎回払わなきゃいけないからさ。So that's one thing that I found strange about weddings. Like in America, その結婚式をやるんだったらもうお金を捨てることをなんていうの？もうお金がなくなることでやる。Like you've decided that you're gonna spend a bunch of money and lose a bunch of money.
But you're saying that still in America you would bring presents, right?
Yeah.
That still costs you money.
It still costs money, but it's not like, 日本はいくらだっけ ?3 万、5万、7万 It's like an odd number. And it also depends on... So they're basically putting on a party and making the money back.
Well, in a way, I don't know. That's... because in Russia, so... a lot of people, especially like slightly more old-fashioned people, they really care what others are gonna think.
Yeah,
so it's a thing to like loan money from a bank.
Really?
Yeah, and a lot of people literally get into financial. And when I say a lot, I mean a lot.
Yeah, I mean they're rip-offs. marriages. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
but
mean,
so it's like everyone, oh, my friends have to see that I'm wearing a really cool dress, and then I have to tell everyone that we went for a honeymoon in the States or in Europe. So people spend like.
My family's cool. So my family's really cool, so they don't care about what people think about them. So I mean, it was a really nice ceremony, but it wasn't like like you know what I mean, like white beautiful dress, like French food, that type of stuff. It was like it was very casual and very fun, and it was something that nobody would forget. I think that's like the main thing. Let's bring it to Japanese ones.
Yeah.
So you have to pay. What do you think about that?
Well, as I said, I think it makes some sort of sense that you either bring gifts or money.
Yeah.
Although I'm not quite sure about having a certain amount of money set for you. You just like you either bring a present that you consider to be of the price that is acceptable in a situation, or you just bring as much money as you want.
Yeah.
Personally, I think that's how it should be. But
yeah. I mean, I think Japanese weddings are extremely expensive too, especially in Tokyo to rent out a place. I mean, I've heard that it's cheaper to go to Hawaii and get married in Hawaii.
Oh yeah, I've heard that.
But Japanese weddings are very formal. すごいフォーマルなの。日本の結婚式はね。で、別にその家族がキリスト教じゃなくても、よく教会とかでね。
But I guess it depends. Like there is also a was it Buddhist or Shinto?
Yeah. They have like Shinto. Buddhist is usually funerals. Yeah. But I mean, a lot of I mean, there's the Shinto type. I mean, I don't really know how long that history actually is. It could be quite new. No, I think there's a possibility that it's not that old.
The Shinto
weddings, yeah. I mean, that we know today might be. I'm not sure.
I mean, they might have transformed, but I think throughout the centuries and centuries, there were certain rituals that.
Well, I think most people probably didn't have weddings.
Well, I'm not saying like it was a wedding ceremony, but it was a wedding ritual. Like, remember, say, Chushingura?
Yeah.
They would have, they would send them into the same room, and then they would drink some special
Yeah, something like that.
Then,
Yeah. So, like, yeah. I'm sure there's certain things that people did, but as, like, ceremony-wise, I think it's become a business.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And it's been very, Japanese weddings are a huge business, and they're probably like that in America too.
They're probably everywhere.
Yeah. But Japan is like the most capitalistic country in the world, and I'm saying that
questionable
as a compliment.
Statement.
Well, in some ways. But それは日本を否定してないの。それ別に悪いことだと思ってない。But yeah. I mean, I have to say, I get really weirded out when it's like at a church and they're like singing some like Christian style song, but nobody's Christian, but they all know the lyrics. You know what I mean? Like, あれみんなハレルヤみたいな。これ何の歌? Like, have you ever been to one?
Well, actually, I've never been to a wedding in my life.
You're lucky. すごい lucky. だってつまんないんだもん。二次会だったらいいけどさ。Like, 二次会 are really fun. あと、日本もアメリカでもそうだと思うけど、what about Russia? 出会いの場? Is it a place where you can meet people like to get a girlfriend or boyfriend?
Sort of, but it doesn't always go very well, so.
Like a Japanese, like 二次会はすごいいい人を探せるかもしれない。
Well, because technically it's probably your friend's wedding, right? And they chose someone from a more or less acceptable background with friends who.
Yeah, and the people who come, like, oh my God, they're getting married. I want to get married too. Like, they got that type of feeling. You know, so it's 皆さんもしかしてナンパしたいんだったらぜひ結婚式でやってください。俺は経験ではわからないけど。
But
yeah.
I think in Russia it's like the idea is that if you're best man to the groom, then you're supposed to get together with the best woman. Is that what?
Yeah. Best woman.
That's not.
I mean, those are very gendered.
Well,
terms.
The whoever is the.
Yeah. Whoever best thing.
Best, best whatever. But. There are lots of terrible stories when people are kind of like forced, especially because everyone's drunk, like, you're getting, married next. And then like,
do they have arranged marriages in Russia?
Not really.
Japan still has them a little bit.
Yeah, right,
Yeah.
right. But
お見合いだっけ？多分お見合いだと思う。
お見合いな
多分。うん。Yeah,
But-
but I'm hoping that Japanese weddings become more casual because it's like I don't know. I think it's more fun. I like even for funerals. We should do one on funerals.
Yeah,
Have you ever been to a funeral?
Yes, I have.
Yeah. Okay, we can talk about funerals because I have been to funerals.
Okay,
Both.
yeah, gosh. Let's make it fun.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
どうだった皆さん？どう思います？どっちがいい？フォーマルの結婚式かパーティー？俺はパーティー。別に
Party.
俺の意見が合ってるわけじゃないんだけど。
個人的に
Yeah, everybody has their own opinion. Okay.